AITA for telling my mom I did not want her there when I got home from deployment. I'm 21-year-old male, have been deployed for the past 10 months, and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plan was for her to be the only one to know what date I was coming back, so that when I get leave we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My 21-year-old wife visited home a couple weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there she spent a day with my mom and 2 younger sisters. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises. So much so that me surprising her by coming home would make her mad at me. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, but we're waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, let the girls go places, and she had to know so she could take days off work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave, a couple weeks after I get back, so that she could request off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no. My mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I lost it on her. Told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, that if I wanted her there I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I'm a married, grown man now. I don't need my mom. I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed further saying, I've been here for you since before you were born. She's been here for 4 years. Eventually trash-talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the asshole. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we can have sex wherever and whenever we please because we haven't seen each other in so long. My mom cried. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, about how I need to let my wife go because I use her for her body, about how all I care about is my own pleasure, and I have no care for my family at all. Update 1. A few people asked to stay updated, so here is the first one. Spoiler alert, it's not necessarily a fun one. Unfortunately, because of another wife sharing our flight date all over Facebook, our return has been pushed back an entire month. I called my wife to let her know, and we are both devastated. I only had enough time for one phone call, so I asked my wife to let family and friends know, including my mother. Yes, I know many people might not be happy about that, but again, she didn't receive a date. My wife's text to her was just that I would not be returning until a month later, or more. My mother's reaction to that news has truly solidified what many comments were telling me. I was raised by a narcissist. Her text back to my wife was, "Oh, that's great. That is much better timing for me." My wife's response to my mother was, "Do not say that to my name. He is devastated that he will be gone longer, and he has been talking about wanting to be home ASAP since just a few months in. I wish you wouldn't have even said it to me, as I'm devastated by his return being delayed as well. It is extremely selfish for you to be glad he is away from home for even longer simply because it works better for you. I have never in my life heard of a mother being glad that her child will be overseas longer than what was planned." After that, she blocked my mom. Her shiny spine is really developing. I have not reached out to my mother, and I will not be doing so. I won't block her, as with my sisters being minors, I would like for one of us, my wife or I, to have at least some line of communication in case of some family emergency. However, I will not be texting or calling, and any of her texts or calls will not be answered unless I consider them an emergency. There were a few questions and deeper explanations from my original post, so I figured I would go into them deeper here. My father passed away when I was 6. Ever since then, my mom has sort of relied on me when it came to raising my sisters. Even with them being high school aged, it continued. When I went into the military, my mom got upset, saying things at home would be just terrible with me gone, that she didn't know how she would handle my sisters on her own, and that life would seem more pointless without her son in it every single day. When my wife and I got married and moved to my first duty station, she begged to trade my sisters off, sending one of them to stay with us every few weeks, where they would stay in our living room. She even told us we would need to purchase a hide-to-bed couch for it to work out. Obviously, that had never happened as I told her my sisters were my sisters and her kids. It was not my responsibility to raise them. My mom and I were very close when I was growing up. I considered her one of my best friends and someone I could always go to. That changed when I got married. I also realized that some of the things she did were not healthy or good parenting moments. My mom started purchasing condoms for me when I was only 12. She was very open about sex with me and was not one to shy away from it. She was completely fine with me having sex at such a young age, which did lead me to being a bit of a man whore. Before my wife, I constantly snuck girls in, snuck out to hang out with girls, and whatever else. My wife was the first girl that I brought to my house during the day, introduced to my family, invited her for dinner. My wife was also very strict with her views on sex when we started dating. We were friends before, so she knew I was a bit of a player. Where I viewed sex as something fun, she viewed it as something that should only be between two people who truly love each other. She was not down for it until a few months into us dating, and I was willing to wait for her. We still snuck around, but when she snuck me in, we quite literally played Mario Kart, watched movies, and hung out all night. When this part of me changed, it changed something about my mom for some reason. She did used to ask about girls I was sleeping with when I was in high school, but when she asked about my wife when we started dating, and I told her we weren't doing anything like that, she got frustrated about me lying. She stopped buying me condoms, which I was fine with because I didn't need them in the beginning, and when I did, I was 18 and completely fine buying them myself. Before my wife and I ever did have sex, she would come in my room and scream about how she didn't want me having sex under her roof. I thought that she just realized that encouraging a minor to have sex wasn't okay. My mom also liked my wife when she was just my girlfriend. This always confused me until I read people's comments. Her going from loving her, inviting her to everything, asking where she was when she wasn't with me, to trash-talking her didn't make sense to me until people in the comments of my last post clarified that it was the fact that she was my wife. Her being permanent is what my mother doesn't like. And as far as cock-blocking, my mom has happily done that since we've been married. She screeched and hit her face when I kissed my wife at our wedding. She begged us to sleep on a pallet in her living room on our wedding night. We didn't. She tried calling 3 times a day when we first moved, once around the time I usually got off work, once either during or after dinner, and once at night. Sometimes while my wife were mid-tango, sometimes when we were already asleep. It was very rare that I actually answered these calls, and when she realized her calls were muted, they faded away. She FaceTimed seemingly once an hour on our first wedding anniversary. Again, I didn't answer. Her wanting us to host her when I first got back was not her being clueless. She knew what she was trying to do. Now that I have a new return date, my mother will not even know the possible weeks I might have leave. She won't need to. I do not plan on seeing her outside of maybe going out to eat with her, my wife, and the rest of my family. My wife will be organizing it, and will be able to ask my sisters about days my mother is off work. Update 2. I'm bored and off work, so while I don't have service, I'll go ahead and type this out and post later. Addressing a few common comments. The wife that shared our dates was not someone who is pregnant with another man's baby, and I very highly doubt she was doing so to be malicious. Yes, she was aware that she wasn't supposed to post it, but it was just another case of a very young wife who got excited. As of what's been heard, she only uses Facebook to connect with family and close friends, so she thought that no one would see her post, despite it not being private. Yes, it is a security issue in the military when these dates are shared. It's called an OPSEC violation. Basically, when something is shared online, it could be seen by anyone at any time, which includes enemies. If someone posted dates, the wrong people could wind up seeing it, saying, hey, a bunch of the people who are fighting for the country we don't like are all going to be in a tube in the sky during this time, which would make it easier for us to be attacked in some way. We take this so seriously that we don't even travel together. When deploying or even moving to a different area, we all travel in small groups on different days. That way, in case we are ambushed or attacked, we don't all die at once. The military is great at sugarcoating. Smiley face. My wife and I got married young because we planned to anyways. We did not get married for base housing. We live in an apartment 30 minutes from base because the base housing that was available to us when we moved was gross. We also often talked about getting married in the future before the military had even crossed my mind. My original plan was to propose to her when we were both 24 and out of school. However, when I did decide to join the military, we got married, had a very small wedding. We figured why not now if it was already the plan, because I wanted her to come with me. I really don't think I'd make it through everything I'm doing right now if I didn't have her supporting me and by my side. No, I don't think I got married too young. Per my last update, I kind of got my hoe around ears out at a pretty early start. I really don't have a desire to go out, have one-night stands, get on dating apps, or any of it. I'd much rather go out with friends and have it just be about friends and come home to my wife. Go out with my wife and come home with her instead of a stranger. Spend my days off at home hanging out with her. And no part of me wants to relearn someone. My wife knows what I like when it comes to the bedroom, and I know what she likes. That to me makes for much more fun. That's not to say I think that people who do want those things are wrong, to each their own. It is just not for me anymore. Not a common comment, but one I wanted to speak more on. My wife's contribution through nannying is something she enjoys doing. Soon, when school starts, she is going to start working at an on-base doggy daycare during the day while the kids are still at school. These are all little jobs that my wife enjoys and doesn't do for the money, because honestly, we generally don't need the extra. It's nice to have extra for the fun things, but if she didn't want jobs, her support of me and care of our home is really all the contribution I need. Yes, I will be going no contact with my mother once my sisters are out of the house, if things remain the same. If my mother does go to therapy and do self-work to correct the behaviors she is towards my wife and I would be willing to give her another chance. However, if that chance is spoiled and she goes back to her ways, it will be right back to NC. No, my mom is not trying to marry my sisters off to get rid of them. My sisters are both extremely close with my wife, and if she started suggesting these things, I know they would tell my wife. However, I do have a very big feeling that both girls will be out regardless once they are 18. My middle sister, 17-year-old, has already started saving money, working extra, and looking at apartments in town because she wants to move out as soon as she can. She's talked to my wife about this, and when my wife is home, they sometimes drive around town to look at different apartments, and my wife has even started keeping a few easy and cheap recipes in a folder should my sister need them. My wife and I have a great relationship. When we first married and moved, she started suggesting couples counseling. At the time, I didn't understand why because we didn't have any issues other than regular disagreements. However, with further explanation from my wife, I now heavily agree with her and we will be starting that when I am home. My wife's explanation being that it will help keep us on the same page and give us the tools to better solve any conflicts that we could face in the future. We also agree that it would probably be beneficial when it comes to learning ways to deal with this situation and others like it. My wife also does personal counseling. She was, at one point, a bit of a doormat. She grew up with a dad that had a my way, or you're a disappointed mindset. Now, she is still her keep the peace kind of self, but she is developing the courage and confidence to stand up. She still has a bit of a hard time standing up for herself in situations that only directly involve her, but she's gotten very keen on standing up for the people she cares about. I am immensely proud of her. I have done some, and do plan to do more personal counseling. There has been a lot to unpack when it comes to my mother's antics, and I'm sure there is still more. Before my wife and I have any kids of our own, I want to make sure that I am fully straightened out and have worked on any possible subconscious issues. I want to be the dad and parent I should have had. My mother is not religious. If anything, she follows more pagan practices. I don't know much about paganism, other than the fact that some Christian holidays are just variations of pagan traditions. My wife and I, however, are Christian. So while Bible verses and references that people have commented are appreciated and resonate with us, sending them my mother's way won't accomplish much. I do have separate contact with my sisters, but even still I prefer to keep a small line open with my mother when it directly involves them. I know my sisters. One doesn't want to burden people with what's going on and won't say anything until after the fact, and one is a panicker who would absolutely leave her phone behind or just not think to reach out at all in the heat of the moment. My wife also has separate contact with my sisters. The oldest of the two calls her at least once a week to ask her about beauty tips, update her on the latest high school drama, or ask advice about boys, mean girls, and more often than not, dealing with my mom. The youngest does reach out and chat sometimes, but she is in her I'm too cool for anyone but H friends phase at the moment. My mother has tried to reach out more. She sends messages every other day, but I haven't read them much or than simming for something I actually need to know. Newsflash, nothing yet. I haven't responded past my original post. For those that have commented or sent a chat where we joked about this, Here is the part that some may see as NSFW or TMI. Skip if you'd like, but I won't be going into any sort of gory details. Update 3. Hello everyone. I am now officially home, and have been for the past week. I've stayed off social media, for the most part, as I've been spending time with my wife and seeing friends who also just returned from a desperate deployment. Being home with my family has been absolutely great. The morning I was meant to leave, my wife and I both agreed that we were going to block my mom until agreeing otherwise. That way, when communicating about flights, layovers, and landing times, nothing would be interrupted when time was running out, and we could enjoy this time without another worry. Unfortunately, storms delayed our landing, and our welcome home ceremony was pushed all the way back to 11 p.m. However, that didn't ruin the night. My wife got to the ceremony, looked beautiful, helped me grab most of my things, and we went home. We were able to enjoy our night. She had several cute decorations, welcome home banners, gifts, and she even made a steak and potatoes dinner which we ate at midnight. So far, our time together has been amazing. And last night, my wife and I talked, and we decided that I would unblock my mom for now, but continue with not communicating outside of emergencies. Now, here is the update on details with my mother. Some of this stuff happened before my return, and some just now. I thought it would be better to just lump them together for those who are only here for the drama read. When I found out the exact day I would return home, I called my wife and let her know. She asked me if I had let anyone in my family know anything, or if I was keeping it to myself. As far as the date of me being back in our hometown, I decided to no longer keep it a surprise. I will be home for a while before actually returning there, and my wife and I don't want to try to hide the fact that I'm there or pretend I'm still gone or anything. So, I said to my wife that I was going to talk to my family and let them know. However, my plan wasn't to let my family know what day I landed. I told them that I would be home on the date that I got leave to go see people. The day I was getting home, my wife posted a picture on her private story around noon. It showed the welcome home banner and our 2 dogs sitting in front of it, and the caption said, "We're so ready." My sisters are on this private story, but she didn't think to take them off because she thought that I told them I would be flying in on that day. That's my bad, as I didn't specify and just told my wife I let them know when I would be home. So, while my mom was at work, my sisters FaceTimed my wife and asked about it. My wife explained that, and they explained that I told them a different date, to which she said, "Oh, he must have been talking about the date he gets to come see everyone there." They all laughed it off, and then moved on and talked about different stuff for another hour, until my sisters told her my mom was home and that they were going to go. 30 minutes later, my wife got another call from my sister, but when she answered it, it was my mom. My mom said, "Wait, is he getting home today?" And my wife said yes. My mom snapped back with, "Well, that would have been nice to know." And my wife, trying to keep the peace, told her, "I'm sorry, he told me that he already talked to you guys about it. But when he did, he was talking about when we would be able to travel back and see everyone." My mom told her, "Well, for some reason he doesn't understand that we can go places too, and we could travel too." To which my wife said, "If you guys would like to come here before he gets leave to see him, that is something I would be all for if you want to talk to him about it. The best time to do that would be in 2 weeks, when he has a 4-day weekend. Other than that, I'm not sure what days he has off." My mom said, "I don't care about what days he has off. We could have been there to see him fly in or even just see him after work." My wife replied, "Well, I know that, or the first week at least, they have told people it's not a good idea to invite guests. They try to keep reintegration between home families at first. I know when my cousin came back from deployment, they weren't even letting outside family on base for the welcome home ceremony." After that call, my wife texted the conversation to me and I finally decided to open my mom's texts, just to take a peek. It was nonsense about how they should be here. I took this opportunity away from them. Blah, blah, blah. I gave a response finally. I told her, "I gave you the dates for when I would see you. I gave you the date for when I would be back in our hometown, and that is the date I would like to see people. If I wanted you to be at my welcome home ceremony, and if I wanted you to visit in the time between when I land and when I get leave, I would have invited you." After that text, I blocked my mom, and that is when my wife and I agreed to both have blocked. Today, when I unblocked her, my plan was to speak with her about planning a dinner when we get back. That way, I could be with the entire family at once. I would up vetoing that conversation when I opened texts from every single day about how I stripped her golden moment of getting to be the one welcoming her son back. So, these dinner plans will be discussed with my sisters, grandparents, and won't be involving my mother. Update 4. My first post outside of the mini mom updates from a previous one, and of course it's here. I got home from deployment about a month ago. My leave just now started, and while we waited for my leave, we came to a decision that we likely wouldn't be seeing my mother as much while we were visiting home because of things she pulled during the process of me getting home. We drove through the night. Oftentimes we choose to do so because it's a 13-hour drive, and driving through the night means our 2 dogs will sleep and we don't have to make as many stops. We pulled into my in-laws' house around 6 a.m. They live on a farm with other large dogs, so we fed our dogs, let them out to play for the morning, and went inside to get a little sleep before the rest of the day. When we woke up around 11, my wife's family had a few small things planned for us to do. Then we planned to see friends. Mind you, my leave is 3 weeks long, so we have plenty of time to see everyone and do everything. While we were getting ready to leave, I got a call from my mother. I decided to answer it, despite low contact, because I figured it would be her asking when we would see my family. Instead, it was her telling me she was suicidal. After everything, I do still love my mother. I do still care, but I don't want to let her manipulate me. I panicked, but I didn't want to make a big deal, so I gave her my best advice and went back into the spare room with my wife. I talked to my wife about the call, and she asked if we needed to go ahead and go there instead. I told my wife no, and that it was okay, and we would see them the following day for my grandma's birthday. Then I got 3 more calls from my sisters and grandma, asking if I had spoken to my mom yet. My wife suggested I call one of them back, or call my mom, and just make sure someone is home with her. And if they weren't, then we could stop by and make sure everything is okay. I called my mom and asked if she was okay. I got an answer as if nothing was ever wrong. I asked if we needed to come there, or if she was with people. She said everyone was home with her, and that we didn't have to come there if we didn't want to, especially because we are busy seeing everyone else first. I was confused, and she told me she was completely okay. I lost it. I shouted at her for telling me she would kill herself, and then telling me everything was completely fine. I asked what made her feel that way, and she told me it was because everyone is more important than her. I didn't know what to say. I just hung up. We left and did all of our plans with everyone else. We are now taking my grandma out to lunch today, so that my wife and I can see her for her birthday. But we decided it was best we didn't hang with my mom if she was going to pull this stuff as soon as we woke up after getting here. Update 5. I, 22-year-old man, have a very, very strained relationship with my mother. Almost a year ago, I made a few posts about her, and the whole realization of things unraveled right on Reddit if anyone's interested in reading those. But the long story short is enmeshment. About a year ago, I decided to go no contact with my mother because of a stunt she pulled. Between then and now, my mother has tried to contact us through social media by using my grandma's phone and my younger sister's phones, but when we find out it is her, if we don't know right off the bat, we simply stop the conversation there. After a while, things were peaceful. Last month, I found out I will need surgery on my knee. Nothing serious, just a quick repair from an injury. My mother found this out because I told my grandma, and she pressured her into talking about it. My surgery date is coming up at the beginning of May, and I will have a bit of time off before then to visit family and friends because I will not be able to travel during my recovery. My wife and I talked about it, and we decided that things have been peaceful long enough that it may be worth trying again with my mother. So, we unblocked her, and I let her know that at the end of April, we would be there to visit for a week. I let her know this 2 weeks ago, and things have been smooth sailing since then, until today. My mother asked if she could call me to talk about my upcoming visit yesterday. I told her that would be fine, and the first thing she asked about was if I would be staying at her house for the week that we're there. I told her that we could probably stay for a night or two, but that we would again be traveling with our dogs, and she doesn't have the space to accommodate them for an entire week. And I also said that my wife and I didn't want to cram together on a small couch to sleep for the week. So, she asked if my wife could stay at Emil's house with the dogs, and I could stay at hers. I told her that I would be staying with my wife, and reiterated that we would be willing to stay at hers house for a night or two. Eventually, she said fine, and the call was over. She started texting me more, and I told her that I would prefer our contact remain low right now, considering we are coming off of no contact. She agreed and didn't message me for the rest of the day. This morning, while I was at work, she called me. I had a bit of free time, so I answered and let her know I wouldn't be able to talk for long. She proposed to me that she come stay at our place the week of my surgery to help take care of me. I told her that I appreciated the offer, but that my wife would have it covered. I reminded her that we have one bedroom, and that I would prefer to be left alone as much as possible while I recover. I had to go, so nothing more was said, but when I got off work, I saw that I had 17 unread text messages, 16 from my mother and 1 from my wife. To preface, the message from my wife said, "Oh Lord, she's on one." The messages to me started with her talking about how she's more than happy to stay on the couch, or even book a hotel for the week, and come to our apartment before I woke up and after I went to sleep. At that point, she began messaging these plans to my wife, but told my wife that I had already agreed to those plans. My wife simply responded, "I haven't heard from him, so I'll talk to him when he's home." She then went back to messaging me and told me that my wife said she would prefer my mother's help in taking care of me. Then she texted my wife that I said I preferred she took care of me. The messages to me then changed to saying that my wife actually wanted to go home during this time to visit friends, so her coming to take care of me while my wife already planned to be gone would work perfectly. And her messages to my wife said that I wanted only my mother to take care of me, and that I thought my wife should have fun and see friends back home. My wife responded with, "I don't think that's true," and then she reblocked my mother. I told my mother that I wasn't going to offer another chance, that she was already blocked on my wife's phone, and that if she messaged me about this again that she would be blocked on mine again as well, and that when I visit home, she is not someone I will be seeing. I only got around to sending that message an hour ago, after dealing with heavy storms, so I guess we will see what comes of it. And trust me, I know that the right answer might be to not give another chance and block her now. But I'm truly interested in seeing if my mother has started to understand things a bit better. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt by thinking that after being blocked for so long, she's just overly excited, and maybe that's silly of me. But I guess we will see what tomorrow brings. What you think about this story? Write in the comment your opinion. On my channel, you can watch other revenge or cheating stories. See you soon, my dear viewer.